Hi everyone, this is Rani here, and I have got amazing Rajni with me. And I'm going to not sing a song, but I'm going to say something in Hindi. लड़की है एक नाम रजनी है, like Rajni, 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 Rajni. So for people wondering what on earth is going on, just to give people an idea of who I'm speaking to. So Rajni is a fellow coach, and she's very precious to me in the sense that I call her my soul sister. There's so much about Rajni that just touches me, and I only got to know Rajni last year. And when I first met her, first of all, I connected to her name because I grew up watching a TV serial in India where the name of the main star, Rajini, and the song would be like, there's a girl with the name of Rajini, and that's what it is in Hindi. And she is very bold, she's very courageous, and she does things that people will say, wow, it goes against the norm. Like she is just being authentic and courageous. And watching that before and not coming across many people with the name of Rajni, I connected to Rajni at that level because I already had a sense of what Rajni meant for me. And then I came across Rajni. And one of the things I was a bit taken aback when I first met her, to be very honest, is she is so open. And I said, oh my goodness, she would cry when she wanted to cry. She would love when she wanted to love. She would just do her thing. And I was thinking, this is very real. And I remember her sitting next to her coach and now my coach, Sachin Sharma. And I couldn't believe that a coach and a client could be so honest and be in the same program and have those conversations. Like it just blew my mind because that's not how I saw myself as a coach or as a professional. Like I thought, oh, this is what I need to be. This is how I need to show up as. What I connected with Rajni is she is so human. She's so alive and being herself, and she doesn't worry about how she comes across. The tears are the ones that I really resonated with because I felt like by Rajni being Rajni, I was also able to show up as Rani. And I know that's a line in her document which we'll come up to at some point, but welcome Rajni, so lovely to have you here.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rani. What an acknowledgement. I'm smiling so much because it's been such a journey to this point. And for context, we met a year ago, didn't we? And we met in the AJC coaching school, and the journey to that point and now the journey to this point has been so transformational and so life shifting that to hear you acknowledge me that way is very moving, because it's me reconnecting with being a kid again, in that sense of not being too overly concerned with what people think about me and all these things, and connecting with that in ways that I lost that when I became an adult, whatever that is. And I lost that when I started working a corporate job. I was experiencing quite severe anxiety, and the doctors told me I was depressed. And so there was such a journey of dismantling all of that story, that I'm not that, I'm not those things, I'm not those diagnoses, I'm none of those things. And coming to this space of who am I and who would I like to create myself to be? And so I'm very honored to be part of the program that you've created, because I think this is what it's speaking to in everyone, is who do you want to be? And in your freedom of being, that creates space for other people to find their freedom of being.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for mentioning the program, because this is what this short interview is about. I have been posting videos of me speaking to the amazing coaches who are going to run the masterclasses for my program. And we are more than half full now, and the caliber of all the, I know, the caliber of all the people who have joined so far is mind-blowing. And you might think that, okay, they all are professionals, they all have achieved a lot in their own right. And yet, I think what people are realizing is that it's just still scratching the surface. People know that there's a deeper dimension to who they are that's still not visible to themselves, and to the outside world. And so that's what the whole empowerment blueprint is about. It's not, hey, let's do some technique and make you feel good in this moment. Yeah, that might have a place and some people might want that, but we know that's not sustainable. So I'm sure you have tried, just like I have tried, to do all of those and then say, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So my first question to you is, because the title of the program is the Empowerment Blueprint, and I have seen the transformation in you in the year that I have known you. We just before we hit record, you told me what was happening in your life right now, and obviously you are in a different place than when you were a year ago. How does empowerment look like to you right now, Rajni?
I love this question because I think in a year's time, if you ask me again, I'll say something different. And if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said something completely different. And coincidentally, so for those who don't know, I used to work in a corporate job in finance. And 3 years ago, I quit and I began my coaching business. And I didn't quite know the journey I was embarking on at the time. And I remember I did this workshop quite early on, and the workshop was about empowerment. And I had this, okay, empowerment, right. So I need to have the 5-step stages to empowerment. What are they? I've got to give these guys a technique. So I've got to have these 5 stages and I've got to flesh them out. And then I've got to take them through the process so then they can keep replicating this thing. And it was really interesting because it was all at the surface of what's going to make me feel better right now. What's going to satiate the world that I live in here and out here. And what I've come to find with empowerment is that what I see in this is it exists beyond who I think I am. And so one of the lines in my document, I'm just going to go straight in with this.
Is there?
I experience wisdom with crisp clarity and I take immediate action. So I am that I experience wisdom with crisp clarity and I take immediate action. And to me, when I speak about wisdom or source or life force or energy or being or empowerment, I'm speaking about one and the same. They're all the same to me. And so why I brought this declaration of my document into this is that I used to think I was a lot of things. So I have this exercise I've done with clients before where it's like you put these post-it notes on yourself. It's like, okay, I am a wife. I'm this person, a person with this job. I am this, I am that. I'm an idiot. I'm not good enough. I'm clumsy, whatever it might be. And before you know it, there is this just plethora of post-it notes. Lady Gaga circa 2007. I think she used to, if you Google it, you'll probably find her in a post-it note dress like that. And I'm walking around with all of these things stuck on me. And then at some point in my life, I forgot that I had created that. I forgot that that wasn't me. And I was walking around with all these labels. Ultimately, all of those post-it notes created this identity, which I thought was me. And so now I'm living in the realms of a universe or a world where I'm limited by the things I think I am. So I'm clumsy. It's just the way I am. I'm not a morning person. It's just the way I am. Can't do the gym if I want to in the morning because or I'm stupid. Oh, you idiot. You did that and it was wrong. And I was judging myself. Now, from the realms of coming into the world as I'm an idiot, who I create myself to be, and then what I do as a result of that, I'm boxed in, caged in by something really that appears to be fixed. And what I've come to find through my own personal journey, and I know this is included in the program, which is why this is so relevant, of the practicing the deep inner work of self-forgiveness and looking within myself is, what am I really? And I remember having this conversation with my coach, and it was a really powerful conversation. But the distinction for me was not who are you, it's what are you? Because who I am, I'm creating something. For me, it was disempowering. So the opposite of empowerment, it was stuck. It was, I'm all these labels. On the other side of that, it was, what am I? And I love the example of, you may have read this book, Rani, and maybe some of the viewers have, and if you haven't, spoiler alert, Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And I read this a few years back, probably around the time that I'd been diagnosed with depression, and I had 4 months off work sick. And Viktor talked about how he had been captured, he was put into Auschwitz, and he was in this concentration camp, and they took everything. He was a psychiatrist. They took his identity of being a psychiatrist. They took the clothes off his back. They took the hair off his head. They stuck a number on his arm, and this is now who you are. And he writes this harrowing account of his experience. And what comes out of the book that was so incredibly shifting for me and so powerful was they could take everything, all of the post-it notes, all of the identity, all of this stuff that we think is real, but underneath all of that, I still have hope. I still have who I'm being. I still have the energy of that, and no one can take that. And so this thing around empowerment for me was asking myself the question, what am I? Because once I die, this body goes into the ground and it becomes, or gets cremated, it's gone. But what exists beyond that is there's an energy here. There's something. And so I am that I experience wisdom with crisp clarity and I take immediate action, is that this wisdom isn't only in the likes of Viktor Frankl, or isn't only in the likes of Rani Bora or Rajni Ghir. That exists in everyone. And it exists mutually without labels. And this isn't a take my word for it. Oh, Rajni's saying this thing, I have to believe it. It's like an invitation to your own inquiry of where are you hearing this from? Is it in the realms of the intellect or in the realms of the identity that you already have, the labels? Or is it hitting you somewhere else where you can't quite explain the feeling, but you're like, oh, that feels true for me? Because that will be the opening for an inquiry of, to me, what empowerment is seeing. And I haven't seen past all the stories. I'm not by any means the finished article, but seeing beyond who I think I am to what I really am. And from that place being like, who would I like to be now? And have that be really fluid and free. So I can be really loud and I can be really still if I want to be. And I can be funny and I can be serious. And I can be all of those things that seem contradictory, but that they do exist within the realms of me, and it doesn't have to be fixed. So I can play. So to me, empowerment is freedom. The first line of my document, I am free. That to me is what empowerment is, to give you a really short answer.
Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. We've gone straight in, and I really love the distinction between who am I and what am I, because in a way, when we say who am I, the who becomes a person. I am someone who, and all these labels. I really like that. And I think maybe that's an exercise we can all do just for fun. Take all the sticky labels and think of all the I am statements, like I'm this, I'm that, and try to work around that. And like you said, at some point, although they're sticky notes, they're meant to be falling off. We have put like proper adhesive plasters or something like that. Like they're completely stuck, and this is who I'm completely. That's my identity. And we completely forget that they are meant to be sticky notes. So even if we think that, then it can fall off.
Yeah.
Whereas when you say, what am I? That itself like gives another quality to our listening, to our being still and reflection, that what do you mean by what am I? Then we suddenly move from the body, oh, I'm this, or this is my past, to like, there is something deeper about me. And all I need to do is, I don't need to have an answer, this is what am I, but as long as I'm getting curious and looking in this direction, what will become clear is, this is not who I am, this is only a label, this is what I'm thinking I am. And it opens up the possibilities for people to have those deep self-inquiry, so to speak. This is beautiful. Thank you, Rajni.
It's a really interesting thing. In 2016, I went traveling in Central South America and I had some Spanish lessons. So don't test me because I'm not very good now, but I got some Spanish left. And I found it really fascinating because in English, we'll say, I am hungry. I am, give away my age, 34 years old. In Spanish, is tengo hambre. Tengo 34 años. It's like, I have hunger. I have 34 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
there's a real shift in the language of you can have something, like I have this t-shirt, but I am not the t-shirt. I can have the thinking, but I am not the thought. Because if I have a thought, who is the one thinking the thought, right? It's like, where does that come from? And if I have a thought, then I can distinguish the difference, the distinction of that. If I am the thought, there is no conversation here.
Yeah.
We don't have this interview. Nothing happens. And so there's this real big distinction of identity as a thing we have. It's like we can possess a quality and we can put it down. We can possess a different quality, we can put it down. And so the inquiry I like to play with is who would I like to be today? What identity would I want to possess today? Like, how would I like to show up in the world? And for me, this question of the who am I versus what am I, it was a very deep inquiry that I was being coached at the time. And I remember going through this period of weeks of crying, and sometimes my body would be shaking because there was such an attachment to this sense of identity that I had. And there's a different identity that I probably have an attachment to now, but it was so strong. It felt, oh my God, that I almost felt, oh, what if I let this go, then what? Then who the hell am I? I remember asking that question and being really afraid of it. But what I found exists on the other side of it is freedom.
Oh my goodness. Beautiful. No words, Rajni, no words. And I also liked when you said empowerment is freedom. True empowerment is freedom, absolutely. And freedom from all these lies that we believe in, freedom from all these things that we think that this is my identity and I'm stuck with it. Like you said, we can be playful with an identity. Let's have some fun rather than being so serious about it all. Lovely. You mentioned document. So let's go there because some people who might not have watched previous interviews, they might be confused by the document. Are you saying there's a legal paper somewhere, Rajni, where I need to go and read out the document, or can I purchase it in a supermarket like for 5 quid or 10 quid? Because what you say sounds amazing. So maybe I can purchase a document for myself. Say a bit about what do you mean by document?
Yes, definitely not a legal paper because I probably wouldn't understand it if it was. So, what is the document for me? The document is a deep process. And I say process loosely and lightly because it's not a step-by-step doing thing, right? It's getting deeply in touch with what we've been speaking to, with what you are. And when I say process, for me, what the document embodies is really looking at who I thought I was with all of the self-judgment and the beration that I had in there, and being really honest about how I create myself. And there was things in my old document, because everybody has one, right? Everybody's walking around with a document consciously or unconsciously. And mine was very unconscious of I'm fat and ugly. I am that I cannot create financial abundance. I am that I can never be free of my own judgments. And that's really disempowering for me to come from that place. And it was. And I felt it. And going through the process of the document was really coming face to face with every single one of the judgments I had on me. The way I create me when no one's looking, right? Not what I want everyone else to see, but really hiding away in that dark closet there. This is who I really am. And through that process of, there's a really deep process of self-forgiveness, of really just seeing the innocence in who you are, that you can forgive having that thinking because it was always innocent, because it was unconscious. But when you bring it into the light of conscious awareness, that you can forgive it, it can be let go of. And so the stripping back of this identity that I had and creating one anew. Because if what I am is this raw energy that powers everything, and when I die, where does it go? I don't really know. But if it's powering everything, then who would I like to create myself to be? To wield that energy into a creation of sorts. And that's how the document was born. So the document is a set of declarations of who I choose to create myself to be every day. I speak it twice a day, And I look for opportunities everywhere and everything I'm creating to live into it as a daily commitment. So it's a lifelong commitment of who I want to create myself to be, rather than the unconscious creation of I'm all of the judgment that I have about me. So it's really speaking, since I brought up Spanish, speaking a different language. I'm learning the language of love rather than the language of self-judgment. So that's how the document came to be.
Oh, beautiful. I'm imagining you before the document going around with all the sticky labels and like doing that Lady Gaga dress thing. We all are doing it. And just before the document and having gone through the self-forgiveness process and creating the who do I want to be, that creating the inner commitment is like maybe a few might still be here, there, somewhere, but most of the ones have fallen off. Would that be fair to say? The old ones.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to say, because after I created the document, so we're talking the end of April this year, 2023, was when my document was created. And after that point, things started to shift tremendously for me. And about a month ago, I was really judging myself because I'm not being the document fully. Oh my God, people are going to know that I'm not fully embodying the document all of the time. And I had a conversation with Ankush actually. And we talked about how the document is a North Star. It's aspirational in its nature. It's something to live into. And it's okay if you're not being it all the time. That's where we practice self-forgiveness. It's a daily practice. It's not a one and done thing. Oh, I've forgiven myself. It's not a doing thing at all. It's a way of being. And the way I lean into forgiveness for myself is I really imagine myself coming out of my own body and hugging myself and telling myself, it's okay. You haven't messed up. You're seeing it. And that awareness is enough to shift it. So it's okay. And so I think it's still a journey, right? It's not the document's complete, everything is amazing, and I never have judgmental thinking. I still experience thought and old recordings of judgments and stuff passing through. And what do I want to do with that is the thing that I bring into my inquiry every day, is like, how do I want to play with that? Do I want to play with that judgmental thinking? Do I just want to put that toy down and play with something else? That's the way that I look at it, is that I'm always going to be a work in progress. And that's really freeing, because then I don't have to use the document as a weapon. Yeah. That's not the point.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Oh, like people will boom, boom, document is just like doing the opposite what's meant to be doing. And interesting, it's like you read my mind, because I was about to ask you, one of the questions people might have is, how do I do self-forgiveness? And you said a little bit about that. I know we can elaborate on this in the masterclass itself, but just to give people a sense of, it's not a matter of changing the negative I ams to positive I am and saying, okay, I'm sorry Rani, sorry Rajni, I said this. You alluded to the fact that it's a deeper process. So do you want to just say something about it? Just drop a hint maybe?
Yes. Keith Blevins, incredible man. He said something a few months ago. I'm going to change it slightly in the context of this conversation. But he said about forgiveness. Forgiveness is automatic when we remember what we are. So forgiveness is automatic when we remember what we are. And so if what we are is this divine source, this energy, and we start to really get in touch with that through the deeper inner work, then it's almost forgiveness isn't even required, because it's a remembering. And so what we are that exists beyond all of this is always free from judgment. It's always free from the judgmental thinking that you might have about yourself, of not being good enough, or not being quite as good as that person, or all these things. And so all it requires, and I say requires very loosely, right? It's not a doing thing, is for us to remember, get back in touch and slow down to what we are, because then it becomes an automatic thing. And so I think that's what I would add, because it's a seeing within thing, not a doing without thing.
Beautiful. I never got this response to what does self-forgiveness look like. So it's fascinating, really amazing the way you have explained it. So thank you. I have one more question to ask you. And that's a question I've been asking everyone, which is I take out any random line from the document. And I know you shared something already, but I want to pick a random line from your document and ask you to say something about it, because I have a sense that people might struggle with this. And the line from your document is, I am that I honor and accept all of my emotion. The reason why I'm bringing this up is in this world where people are looking at empowerment and self-help, there is this thing about, oh, there are some emotions to be scared of, to be frightened of, or unpleasant emotions, such as even anxiety, that I need to get rid of. I need to resist it, I need to fight it, or I need to numb it. And for you to say, I am that I honor and accept all of my emotion, including the very distressing emotion, I would like you to speak about it, because I have a sense that if people feel they are disempowered because of certain emotions they're experiencing, I just want you to shed some light on that.
Oh, there's so much I could say here. So I'm just going to take a moment to slow down. Hmm. So I wasn't living this way. Let's go back 4 years. I was in a great deal of distress, anxiety, depression, and I was fighting all of it. I was trying to numb it. I was constantly wanting to feel better, and it was exhausting, which is why I think the depression set in, because what is depression is deep rest. The body's exhausted, just stop, let go, surrender. And I think honoring and accepting all emotion, to me, is embracing the full human experience. That no emotion is good or bad, it just is. And I experience emotion. So when we were in the AJC coaching school last year in November, I was going through an ectopic pregnancy, and it was 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks before we had one of the in-person weekends. And I came in and I didn't want to be there. And I went straight to the front of the room, spoke to Andrea, said, I don't want to be here, but I'm here. And my feelings was like, I don't want to be here, but my wisdom was saying, you need to be here. And so I sat in the front, and I remember, I don't know what was being spoken about, but I just felt this immense, like it was just a need to just let it out. And I started crying. And I was crying in the room. And I think it went on for 45 minutes, just crying. And in that moment, I just didn't judge it. And it was the first time in my life I haven't judged myself for being in the emotion of what is in that moment. And I let it flow. And Felipe gave me a box of tissues. He put the tissues near me. And it just flowed and flowed. And I just was with the experience, and I just embraced it. And it was the most moving, powerful experience for me, that it's okay to experience whatever feeling is showing up, because I cannot be harmed by it. Because if what I am exists beyond thoughts and feelings on a human physiological level, it can't be harmed or affected by anything. And so there's that element to it. And I'll say one more thing. I heard a spiritual teacher once say to somebody, so they said, I often have this real sadness. I don't know what to do. And please, if you're listening, this is not religious. This is not woo. Hear it from where you are and where it hits you in your being, not from any concepts or putting some religious meaning on it or anything like that. But this person said, I'm really sad. And the spiritual teacher said, that's an amazing gift. Because that sadness is redirecting you to what you really are. Because if you weren't sad, you wouldn't necessarily be searching within. You'd be distracted by everything out here. And so honoring and accepting all of my emotion is an act of being human, and knowing that when it shows up, if I surrender to what is, it passes way more easily. And it's a practice. It passes way more easily. And I choose to create it as a redirection for seeing what I really am again and remembering, a redirection into forgiveness. a redirection into love. I could go on, but I'll pause it there.
Just amazing. Thank you. And I can't help but quote Sydney Banks here, where he says, if the only thing that people learned was not to get scared of the emotion, that itself will change the world. And I can really see how it's going to change the world of psychiatry and psychology if the professionals, every time someone presents to them with distressing emotions, they really see this, that they don't have to get scared of their own emotions, and they can also then hold the person's space while they are experiencing any kind of distressing emotions and point them to this. This is so beautiful. This is so powerful. Rajni, wow, this seemed like a masterclass, like already a mini masterclass. And for people who join, there will be a fuller masterclass with lots more opportunity for people to ask you questions and for us to go deeper into this. But even if people watch this and they decide not to join, this is a gift. This is a gift for everyone. This is a free gift for everyone to just watch this as many times as you want and really pause and experience what Rajni is sharing here, because I believe if people get a glimpse of what you're pointing to, Rajni, and if people were to be open to listening, they are going to get something by giving their full attention to just being with this and sitting with what you have said, because it has been such a rich conversation. So thank you so much, Rajni. I'm so blessed to have you as my soul sister and for you to come to my program and share your wisdom with my participants, with the students. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so honored to be asked to be part of it. It was a hell yes from me. The moment you asked me, I was like, yeah. And this is the thing that I see with you, Rani, is that you are really taking a stand for what it means to be mentally wealthy, what it means to be mentally well. And that's not an exclusive thing to certain people, or because you've experienced anxiety most of your life or whatever else, or certain feelings, that it's off limits to you. And so I'm so passionate about this work, and I couldn't have said no to being part of this program because of who you're being. And so if anyone is thinking or considering about joining the program, watch this video, and I invite you to go to your wisdom beyond the thinking that you might have about, oh, is the program right for me? Or, oh, this isn't for me, or I can't be part of that group, or whatever thinking might be coming up, and reach out to Rani and have a conversation, because it could be a conversation that changes the trajectory of your life. And so that would be my invitation to everyone who's watching this. If you have something pulling you in here that you can't explain, follow it. And I don't think you'll regret ever having a conversation with Rani. Soul sister.
Thank you, Rajni. Really appreciate that. Bye for now.